That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. Joining me for one more time to do some power rankings this year, Jimmy Ray from @NFL_stats on Twitter. Jimmy, we made it. The regular season in the books. Super wildcard weekend coming up. How are you feeling?
Man, it's bittersweet. Nothing's better than NFL football, but we have 18 teams that aren't playing anymore. So you don't get to watch your team. Some people are happy, like me, that we don't have to watch the team anymore. But playoffs it's the best football. It's the best playoffs in sports. I feel like that might be bold, but it's win or go home.
We do a football show. We can say that. We can say that. Playoffs.
If you're watching, you better like the football. So
don't add us. Hey. The Colts got put out of their misery, so you're happy. I actually gave my condolences before we started recording after having lost to the Houston Texans and having you guys didn't beat the Texans this year.
No, it was a fun game. It was a really exciting game, and by the end of the game, I was like, just please lose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change how bad this season was. It does change our draft position, moving up 2 spots where we would have been. We would have been at the 6th spot since the Rams, I believe, did lose. I think that's how I knew about it earlier, but yeah, we would have been 6th. Now we're 4th. Gives us a little more lee room on getting a future QB.
Hats off to Lovie Smith, by the way. I think he knew he was going to get fired, and he was like, screw this. I'm going to cost you guys the number 1 pick. Give my former team, the Bears, the number 1 pick. Lovie Smith for life. So I love that. I just want to bring up a quick question here because it's the last Power Rankings show. Who cares? We'll wait to start the timer. Benji and Dad Gaming Channel, what's up in the chat? What are the odds Colts make the first pick in the draft? I think they make a trade. Jimmy, what are your thoughts as a Colts fan? I think that Chris Ballard said that he's going to move, heaven and earth, I think was the quote, to get a quarterback. Do you think that they'll trade for number 1?
I would say it's a 50-50 shot for me in terms of I don't think Ballard has really shown that he's fully into moving up if he doesn't have to. So he's going to do his research, see what kind of QB he has. I don't think if he doesn't like a QB, I think he's going to make a move that nobody's excited about. Is there a QB he likes? We won't know until a draft happens because he won't give anything away. He did say he would move everything to get a QB, and that's only if it's the right QB, which is always interesting to say. He leaves everything on the table. And honestly, I feel like we could not move and maybe get somebody we want, but that's a very risky take. You have to move up if you like somebody.
The Colts in particular, as a Colts fan, you know that it all comes down to quarterback. The rest of the team can be great.
100%.
The Colts have had fantastic rosters over the last few years, haven't been able to get even to the playoffs the last couple of years because they didn't get it right at quarterback since Andrew Luck retired.
Right.
I won't make you relive it anymore. We've got a whole offseason to talk about this kind of stuff. What do you say we jump in one final time for the 2022 season and draft us some power rankings?
Let's do it.
All right, Anthony Weiner, our producer behind the scenes, also condolences. His Lions came just short. You cannot fault their effort. They knocked Aaron Rodgers out. They won their final game in Lambeau. Rodgers' first loss in a play-in game, never lost when all he needed to do was win and get in. But ultimately, only my Dolphins make it to the playoffs, and I'm not even really all that excited for it. So what do you say we get started? Anthony, kick up that timer. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. Final 22 NFL Power Rankings draft starts now. Jimmy, I don't know where we left off. I'm going to give you 32 for being the regular guest on this show. Kick us off one last time.
I have the Colts. They ended the season so poorly. They went 1-7 down the stretch. We don't have to talk much more than we just did.
That's a Colts fan speaking all the way at 32.
All the way at 32. I mean, does it really matter 30, 31, 32?
No.
I think some of the teams above have a little more upside, but I don't know if it's just the pessimist in me talking, but it just seemed like, especially the last few weeks, there was no fight whatsoever after that Raiders game, especially after losing to the Vikings, blowing a 33-point lead. It was just, we weren't winning any games.
Yeah, new coach, new quarterback. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to next year. I mean, I hope for your sake, Jeff Saturday's not back, so I'm just going to assume that new coach is the case. I'm going to go ahead. 31. I had the Bears at 32, and it's not because I don't think Justin Fields is exciting. He is, but as exciting as he was, they still weren't winning games. They had one of the worst defenses in the NFL, especially after trading away Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith. They really lacked playmakers. Their offensive line, especially in pass protection, was one of the worst in the NFL. Really, it was just Justin Fields' heroics that even made them interesting to watch. But the good news, Bears fans, you have the number 1 overall pick. You have over $100 million in cap space. You've got everything you need to set yourselves up for the future. So that's your silver lining. You may have been one of the worst teams in the NFL for the entire season, but we think you have your quarterback, and you got a lot of toys to play with to reset the war chest. Let's keep it going at number 30.
Yeah, I have the Arizona Cardinals, who will be looking for a new head coach right after extending him this past offseason. I saw a sweet tweet somewhere saying, I mean, that says a lot about the organization that they extended the head coach before the season, and then halfway through the season, or at the end of the season, and the GM, the GM quote unquote stepped down for his health reasons. So hopefully he's good. I'm not going to knock any health reasons at this point, but obviously they're going to be looking for a whole new staff. The team could have a big change coming, but Kyler Murray, I think, is still going to be the foundation for now. We'll see what happens there. I don't think they have much of a choice. They have to build around him and see what they can do there. But you did predict that Cliff Kingsbury might be fired after the season, and you were correct. Yeah, you were correct. Despite the
I got a lot of heat from Cardinals fans on Twitter for that one, but I'm like, he's not done well. Even his college record doesn't look good. I had the Cardinals at 31, and I considered putting them at 32. It's just a mess of an organization. They'd started hot in previous years only to crumble. This year, they crumbled from the start. No wonder Kingsbury and Keim are out of there. Number 29, a team I wanted to put even a little bit higher, Houston Texans. Like, you got to hand it to them. They played competitive football. There weren't that many games, especially in the second half of the season, that they were just out of. The Dolphins did blow them out. They were up 30-0 at one point, but they were running with the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. They nearly beat the Cowboys. They took the Chiefs to overtime. Was it the Titans that they beat to get their second win of the season? So, and then finishing the season strong against the Colts. I mean, there's still a lot that they need, but I just like how this team fought under Lovie Smith. We saw he was going to get fired. Still a shame. I love that he won his last game, and he did it in a ballsy fashion with a 2-point conversion. Davis Mills, obviously not the answer, but Dameon Pierce was a nice find as a rookie. Nico Collins, when he was healthy, definitely had some plays. Even Chris Moore. Brandon Cooks, I'm not sure he'll be on the team, but there are some pieces. And Houston's got draft capital from the Deshaun Watson trade. So there's your silver lining, Texans fans, is it can't get much worse, and there's a decent chance it'll get better, especially if you find the right coach.
Yeah, people might be surprised that they did end up winning against the Colts, but those players, those coaches, they don't care about the number 1 pick. They don't care what pick they are. A lot of those players and coaches might not be back this season. There's a very small amount of people on the Texans that are a sure thing for next season. So they just got to play their heart out for their next contract and to stay in the NFL in some capacity and just put up some good film that coaches and whoever might be looking at it can see next season. For my next pick, we have the Los Angeles Rams coming off a loss against the Seahawks. I mean, the Rams could look a lot different next season. I like now that the season's over, we can kind of look at what's happening. The offensive coordinator moved down to college. Sean McVay might be gone. Aaron Donald might be gone. Matthew Stafford might be gone.
I'm thinking McVay is probably gone. I mean, I'm leaning into the likely stage at this point. It might take like a 1 or 2 year sabbatical. Call it the Sean Payton treatment.
Right. Yeah. We'll kind of see. I mean, trade everything away and then leave for a couple of years from your team and see what happens after that. That's kind of the way it looks at this point. I don't know what's going to happen if he's going to leave, if they're going to welcome him back with open arms. But a lot of changes coming for the Rams.
Stafford has said he is coming back. So regardless of what
he's
McVay
not
does,
retiring. Yeah,
he's not retiring. Cooper Kupp will be back from his ankle surgery. Cam Akers really came on at the end of the year. We saw some of the old Cam Akers that everyone was so excited about before he tore his Achilles. So once again, we're always trying to find silver linings. Now we're like finding silver linings for next year. Baker had some fun moments. At least you had some fun games to watch, Rams fans. Let's keep it moving. Denver Broncos, we'll put them at 27. Definitely had a little bit of bump post-Hackett in how they played competitively against the Chiefs and winning their final game against the Chargers. And it was against most of the Chargers starters for most of the games. You can't even say that questionable move for Staley to not sit his guys earlier. Mike Williams even got injured. But hats off, Russ had his moments. He still didn't look great, but he had more of those old Russ moments. Maybe that's something you can build on. You're going to bring in a brand new coaching staff. You got new ownership. There's some fresh moments. You still have a lot of talent. Denver is, I think, the most talented team of any of these teams we've listed so far as just what is on their roster. So if you get the right coach in there, you find a way to get Russ playing to where he used to, this Broncos team is a team that could turn it around quickly, I think.
Right. Their defense is phenomenal. And if Russell Wilson can get any better for next season, the Broncos don't have a choice. They have to roll with them for longer until they
and they don't have a first-round pick.
Yeah, not anytime soon. Do they have a choice? They have to stick with Mr. Unlimited, and we'll see where it takes them if they get a top name head coach like they're looking for. But I think there's a lot to like about the Broncos team as a whole, despite Russell Wilson not playing his best and not. I mean, that's the highest expectations for the team, and then just hit the low this season. Oh yeah, it's my turn. I have the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons. They ended the season 2-0.
That's low for Atlanta. Yeah, they look at Desmond Ridder beating Tom Brady. I mean, I know they were tied when he came out of the game, but he threw his first 2 touchdown passes, won his last 2 games of the season. Tyler Algier, my preseason fantasy favorite. Look how he finished. The most yards by a rookie in Atlanta Falcons history, beating out names like Julio Jones and Kyle Pitts. You might have heard of those guys. I had the Falcons a few spots higher than this.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think a lot of these teams, they can go either which way, however you look at it. Whether it's basically anybody from the NFC South, you can look at it and be like, they've had some upside, they've had some downside. As a whole, the Falcons did exceed expectations tremendously, and I did say Tyler Algier had a very quiet 1,000-yard rookie season. Desmond Ridder came in and won a couple games, but they did show a lot of disappointment throughout the season. But they were just trying to figure themselves out, and they weren't expected to be very good. So we'll see if they run with. I'm sure they'll run with Desmond Ridder next season too.
So this is one of the teams I had below the Falcons, and that's the Cleveland Browns. So we'll put them at 25.
That's fair.
They just fired their defensive coordinator. Kevin Stefanski is supposedly safe. I'm not sure he should be because this team with Jacoby Brissett, who, by the way, actually played pretty good football for most of the year, they weren't able to score enough points. Their defense was actually they were supposed to be like a top 10 defense. They were a bottom 5 defense for much of the season. And Deshaun Watson has just looked awful. I think his highest PFF score was a 70, and that was against, I think that was their 3rd game, and then he just got worse. Like, it's not like he kept getting better, and it culminated, I think he was sacked 7 times in that Steelers game, and that includes some of he got out of pressure and made a few plays with his legs. It was just not a lot to like. Even Nick Chubb started the year great, and he didn't finish as strong. So, yeah, the Browns have a lot to do. They don't have draft capital similar to Denver, so they can't fix it in the draft because of trading for Watson. They don't have money to spend because of the Watson deal. Less silver lining for a team like this, Jimmy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson, they have to run with him like the Broncos do with Russell Wilson, so he has to improve. The defensive side of the ball has to improve. They fired their defensive coordinator, Joe Woods. So we'll see if they can bring in some fresh blood and get a defense going that has been good in the past and could be good in the future if they have the right personnel to make them do so. For my next pick, I have the New Orleans Saints, another NFC South team, coming off a pretty embarrassing loss against the Panthers, who I mean, the Sam Darnold did not play well at all, and the Saints still couldn't put up any points. Andy Dalton obviously isn't the answer. I don't know exactly where they're going to go with a quarterback, if they can maybe find a QB in the draft, but with the spot that they're in, I don't know if they'll be able to pick anybody worthwhile, at least ready to go for the start of the season. But a lot of question marks. They can trade Sean Payton here soon, so we'll see if what they can recoup from that.
That might be their move, honestly.
Yeah.
Is to trade Sean Payton. And I mean, with the amount of news that's coming out about the teams that he's speaking to, he's now speaking with Arizona. He's already spoken to, I believe, Carolina and Denver. They could be in a position to recoup some draft capital. But I also think that coaching is an issue. I don't think Dennis Allen is the answer at head coach. We've now seen him coach for 2 different teams. He had that stint with the Raiders, and he has not been good. The defense got better towards the end of the year, but they were an issue earlier in the season. The offense, short of like Chris Olave and Raheed Shaheed, kind of these rookies coming out of nowhere, they were stagnant at times. Not a lot to like, and of course that NFC South was just bad. Let's finish it off. Let's put the Panthers at 23, the team you just referenced, who did finish their season on a winning note. Other than the Bucs, who won this division, the entire NFC South we've already covered, right? And the Panthers, had they won last weekend, they would actually be going into the playoffs if they would have beat the Bucs. So just a bad year all around for this division. But I actually think the Panthers is one of the more attractive spots for a coach coming in. They have a lot of young talent on both sides of the ball, and that's the kind of thing you look for in an opportunity to be able to rebuild. So I don't think that's a terrible spot. I think they're a team that could also see a jump quickly with the right coach. So Panthers fans, yeah, I would say arrow up for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I had them in that same spot. For my next pick, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. They had a pretty tough couple last games with Jared Stidham coming in. They played the 49ers pretty well, kept that close, but then the Chiefs were circling all over them with their crazy play that they had. But Jared Stidham didn't play as well. There's a lot of question marks going into the offseason as what they'll do at the quarterback position. Where will Derek Carr end up? He seems to be the big veteran quarterback on the move, at least at this point that we know of. I'm sure there's other quarterbacks that'll be on the move as well. But we'll see what the Raiders can do. If they could even trade up for a quarterback if they feel the need to. But they do have some bright spots in Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, obviously, Max Crosby. So they do have some bright spots if they can figure out that quarterback position, because Derek Carr
Jacobs is a free agent. They do need to
that's
sign
right.
Jacobs. They really need to shore up that defense outside of Crosby. Their defense was another one of those that was just really, really porous week in and week out. Next up, a team that they beat on one of the craziest endings of the entire season. That's the New England Patriots. I did have the Raiders ahead of the Patriots for that very reason. The Patriots, had they not scored like 7 or 8 defensive touchdowns, they would have been like a 4 or 5 win team. So credit that to Belichick, sure, but a lot of that stuff is a little fluky. They did play better towards the end of the season, but ultimately, losing record with Bill Belichick, without Tom Brady. The offense was bad. Offensive coordinator decisions were questionable. You need a new offensive coordinator. Let's start there. That's before you do that, and hope that Mac reverts to what he did his rookie season.
Yeah, it's only the second losing season since 2001. Obviously, when they had Tom Brady, Bill Belichick going crazy. Now it's a different kind of era for the Patriots, so you can't expect success every year. So we'll see where they go from here. But yeah, their defense definitely held them up a little bit more this season than they typically have in the past. For my next pick, I have the Tennessee Titans. Absolutely unfortunate for them losing their quarterback. A lot of injuries derailed their season, but losing 7 straight, that can't happen regardless of injuries. Every team has their injuries. Losing 7 straight just to lose, so close to getting that AFC South title and being in the playoffs. Just very unfortunate for the team as a whole. Once again, we'll see where they go. But typically in the past, they've made the playoffs and then lost there. But now they didn't make the playoffs, so we'll see if Malik Willis probably isn't the answer. Ryan Tannehill, we'll see if they run it back with him. But another team with a lot of question marks.
So many question marks. Henry's going to be a year older. And even when he played well this year, they still didn't win games. Worst point differential in the second half of all NFL teams this
That
year.
makes sense.
So there's just so much that needs to change there. I also had them at 20. I guess we don't have a halftime. We're just rolling through this thing. I'm
it's
fine with that.
me.
Let's just crank it out. I think Anthony is probably, having a drink or something. Number 19, let's go ahead and put the New York Jets, a team that had so much promise. At one point in the season was 7-4, so just securely in the playoff race, and then they also lost 6 in a row to end the season, losing to my Dolphins 11-6. That's a real score, not a scoregami, by the way. There was one other 11-6 in the 1999 NFC Championship game. Funny enough, but yeah, it all comes down to quarterback. Lots of bright spots on this Jets roster on both sides of the ball. You got an offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year candidate in Garrett Wilson, who was the lone bright spot in this game, and Sauce Gardner on the defensive side of the ball. It just comes down to the quarterback. Breece Hall looked fantastic before he got injured. Even Bam Zonovan Knight looked good in spots. So it's really just comes down to better offensive line play and, most importantly, the quarterback position. They don't have a high enough draft pick to go after one of these rookies, or at least not one of the highly touted rookies, so they'll probably bring in a veteran. But I like that they're keeping Saleh, and I hope that doesn't change, because I do think Mike LaFleur, we should mention, gone today, is no longer the offensive coordinator for the Jets, so they'll need to replace the OC as well, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's interesting how you look at all these teams, and there's one thing in common. It's the quarterback position not being set in stone. They don't have an elite quarterback. There's not a lot of elite quarterbacks to go around, obviously, but all these teams have question marks at the quarterback position and what they can do to improve in that for the most part. And this next team, the Washington Commanders, that's who I have next. They had Sam Howell come in for their last game. He didn't have a bad game. It was his first start, and you can't ask for much else. They came in, they beat the Cowboys, and the Cowboys had all their starters in. It was Week 18, and the Cowboys had their starters playing, and they lost to the Commanders. So that was a good bright spot to end their season. But obviously with the Taylor Heinicke situation, with Carson Wentz getting injured and then coming back for a little bit, questioning, which was a questionable move at best. Another Carson Wentz disaster there. I feel like I don't think he's going to be the answer at quarterback for them next season.
Sam Howell's undefeated as an NFL starter.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So if you go with him week 1, you can go with that narrative until he starts losing games for you. But we'll see if he can pull it off. We'll see where they go this season.
Number 16, let's put the Mike Tomlin-led, non-losing record, 9-8 Pittsburgh Steelers. I actually was texting with Rich Jodice, the Pro Football Demon, our resident Jets fan, and said that, during the Dolphins-Jets game, and I said, look, if the Dolphins lose, I'm fine with that. I just want the Steelers in, not the Patriots. So I was happy to see that the Steelers were able to win their game to finish with a winning record, and they came just short. But the fact that with this roster, playing multiple quarterbacks throughout the season, losing their stud defensive player TJ Watt for half the season, and still finding a way to go 9-8 in a division with 2 playoff teams, this guy, he's a Hall of Fame coach. That goes without saying. So I just was in awe of the fact that he was still able to pull it off. They were 2-6 at one point, Jimmy, and they were one of the hottest teams to end the season. They weren't blowing anybody away, but they were finding ways to win. That's coaching.
Yeah, I remember people. I tweeted out that stat that he doesn't have a losing season. People like 9-8. That's not impressive. Well, if you just look at the stat,
if you do it for 16 years,
that's not impressive. If you do it for 16 years.
Belichick just had a losing record.
Even if you just looked at this season, this season where they started from where they are now, with TJ Watt getting injured, with Kenny Pickett playing his first year. When you look at a team beforehand, I wouldn't say they're guaranteed to go 9-8. So it's just very impressive in that stat. Might live on forever. I don't think it'll ever end. So we'll see. For my next pick, I have a playoff team. The first playoff team coming in for me, it's the Seattle Seahawks. They're in the playoffs for sure. Shout out to the Lions for making that happen, and for the Seahawks for beating the Rams. Geno Smith had 7 straight games with 2+ touchdowns. In the past 4 games, he's only had 5 total touchdowns. So that's been kind of the disaster point for the Seahawks towards the end of the season. Geno Smith just hasn't been people have been writing back to him for sure.
Yeah, he's gotten some letters recently.
So I mean this week they're going to need to play their best game they've played all season if they want to beat the 49ers. I mean
they've been blown out twice by San Francisco.
Yeah.
Not even just barely beaten, blown out twice, including at their own home on Thursday night against Brock Purdy. So Purdy's already played this team. But hey, I'm with you. Credit to Seattle. I picked them in the preseason as the number 32 overall team.
Yeah.
And here they are. We're going to finish our final power rankings at 15 and the number 7 seed in the NFC. So what an amazing job by Pete Carroll. What an amazing job by John Schneider with the draft that he put together, the amount of rookies that were contributing on both sides of the ball. You think of Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant on the defense. You think of both his starting tackles and Kenneth Walker as rookies that were starting almost the entire season, and Geno, of course, comeback player of the year in my eyes. What a great story. Number 14, let's put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady, first ever losing season. He was pretty pissed. He was tied when they took him out. I understand why Bowles took him out, but why are you going to start him in the first place and not give him a chance to win and keep that streak of never having? It's the Mike Tomlin record of quarterbacks, right? He never had a losing season in a year that he started until this year. Where'd our tier maker go? All right, I'm gonna wing it. The Bucs team that we talked about how bad that division was. They win and they're in. They get a home game against the Cowboys on Monday night. I'm going to have our Legit Football NFL podcast debut on Friday. We're going to be previewing the games. And I got to say, I think I'm leaning towards the Bucs winning that Monday night game at home against the Cowboys.
I mean, it's one of those games where we'd be like, I could see them upsetting the Cowboys. The Cowboys haven't been playing their best football.
It just seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And McCarthy will get fired and Sean Payton will go to Dallas, right?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. You just spoke it into existence. So hopefully Cowboys fans don't get mad at you for that. But we'll see.
I think we got mixed up. Oh, look, there's no 18. It goes 19, 17. I'm like, I was the odd numbers. We'll figure out where that. Oh, he's going to just add a row on the. Well, now it's too late. Anybody watching live and anybody listening, this is all Anthony's fault. He started deleting rows in our tier maker power rankings draft. We don't know who's supposed to go there, though. You're just going to shift everybody down. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, there we go.
Number 14, Jimmy. Let's keep it rolling. We're definitely going to need overtime for this one.
All right, I have the Green Bay Packers. I don't know how high you guys had them in the past, but after 4 straight wins, they lost when they needed to win the most.
I had them right here. I had them at 14 exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough putting them this far back when they were so close to the playoffs. I mean, everyone basically wrote in pen, hey, Packers are going to win. Especially if the Lions don't have anything to play for. The Lions didn't have anything to play for except sending their divisional rival home. And Dan Campbell has a team that's excited. That's an exciting team.
Maybe
for next
sending
season.
Rodgers home for good.
Maybe. I mean, that's what we said last season. That's what we could say this season. I mean, it's inevitable that he'll retire eventually. We'll see what he decides, but I wouldn't be surprised if him and Randall Cobb hang it up together. You saw that picture of going back into the locker room with the arms around each other's shoulders. But obviously a devastating end to that season that looked promising and looked like they could have if the Bucs obviously make a run here, if they could be like the Bucs and could have played upset in the playoffs. But the Seahawks made it for the NFC, but we have the Packers above them. So
for number 13, I'm going to make an audible on my own individual power rankings right now. I had a team I was going to put here, and if all things were equal, meaning if all quarterbacks were healthy, I would have switched these teams. But one quarterback's not healthy, and neither is the second stringer, so I'm going to go ahead and put the Ravens here at 13. As good as they are as a team, especially on defense, and look, they find ways to win games. They were in the AFC North race until the end, and losing with their third-string quarterback Anthony Brown to the Bengals. Looks like we might get the same thing again. It's the same matchup. It's seemingly highly doubtful that Lamar is going to play. Still not practicing 6 weeks later. Tyler Snoop Huntley is also either limited or not practicing. I have to put them behind the other 12 teams because I think they're going to get pounded on Sunday night against the Bengals again.
That's fair. I mean, their defense has been playing really well, so if they can kind of stop them there, right? But will their offense get enough? I mean, they're averaging 13 points per game since Lamar got injured. 13 points per game. That's
13.
quite awful. They were doing 22 points per game. I did see a stat. I forget who was from that they've only lost 35 yards per game on average since they lost Lamar. So they are moving down the field a little bit, but just the miscues from that offense with their third string in. I mean, that's typical. You'd have to assume that happens. They're not the 49ers have a pipe dream, have a very good thing going on there, but you can't expect that from every team. So I'll go ahead and put the Dolphins up next in a very similar situation. I feel. I feel like you can't argue at this point.
Yeah. No Tua.
They did beat the Jets 11-6, but just looking at it from this season specifically, I think they don't have much of a chance against the Bills. That could bite me in the butt. If that does bite me in the butt, that'd be an awesome win for the Dolphins. That'd be a crazy game if that does change. But Skylar Thompson, he was good in the preseason. They're coming in now. Just an unfortunate experience for the Dolphins towards the end of the season after losing 5 straight and then sneaking in a win at the end of the season and making the playoffs, because they could easily be out of the playoffs right now.
I'm thankful as a Dolphins fan to even have a playoff game. Don't get me wrong. I'll be watching that game closely, and I'm on the West Coast, so Sunday morning for me. But I absolutely expect them to get pasted by the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. There's an outside chance that Teddy plays. If Teddy plays, it's a little bit more hope, just because he runs this offense better. He's doesn't run it nearly as well as Tua does, but Skylar Thompson just has not run this offense well at all. The one good thing, Skylar, he's not turning the ball over. He's not making bad decisions. He's just not making any decisions. He just keeps holding the ball, and no one's open, and he'll either throw an inaccurate, incomplete pass, or he'll get sacked, or he'll throw it away. And it's just against a team like the Bills, with everything they have going for them, it's not looking good. Let's go ahead and put the Giants at 11. I had them below the Dolphins, but I'm with you with the logic. It's the same reason I put the Ravens there. I initially had the Giants at 13, but I like putting them up ahead of the Dolphins and the Ravens because of how well they played in Week 17. Daniel Jones, his best game as a pro. That's the kind of momentum you want going into the postseason. You love how this team plays for Brian Daboll. Their best receivers are Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James. It's like, who is this team? But I love it. They're finding ways to win. That is coaching. I don't know. Oh, you got 2 13s now, Anthony. This whole thing is Bush League here, Jimmy. To finish out the regular season, we are not.
It's the last week. It's the last week. Yeah, we sat our starters this week.
That's right. That's right. We already clinched a number 1 spot. We got a bye. We're just not. We're phoning it in this week. Let's finish out the top 10. We'll probably need like 5 more minutes of overtime, Anthony, just to prepare. Yeah. So let's start with number 10, Jimmy.
Yeah, just to punish Anthony for that, I'll go ahead and put the non-playoff team, the Detroit Lions.
I want to mention one more thing before you go into the Lions. The one team, Jimmy, that you and I got a lot of flack for on Twitter, and we have to find a way to release these final rankings on Twitter. We haven't been doing it because we haven't got a graphic, is where we put the Giants. Well, congrats, Giants fan. You guys earned it. You're in the playoffs. You earned a final spot in the top 10 for legit football and NFL stats, power rankings. Okay, keep going now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the Giants beating the Vikings. Honestly, I think that'll be a very good game. I think that's what everybody's excited for. Benji saying Anthony's rebelling because of the Lions missing the playoffs. That's
not our fault, Anthony. Don't punish us.
Yeah, come on, man. You know what? After the game, I texted him like, "I'm sorry, man, but that was a hell of a game." Yeah, that was awesome.
I said, "Future is bright in Detroit. You got 2 first-round picks. You were playing good enough. You're a top 10 team."
I don't know what. If he had a few drinks in him, but he seemed excited about the future when I texted him. He wasn't upset or anything. And I think that's how Detroit Lions fans should feel, finishing the season 8-2 after starting 1-6. I mean, how things could be so different if they started out a little better, but you can't focus on that because only one team's going to win the Super Bowl, and you guys have some very bright spots looking into next season. Aiden Hutchinson was playing very well, but the offense was just extraordinary. Amon-Ra St. Brown is turning into one of the most elite receivers in the game, especially with someone like Jared Goff. Who would think that Jared Goff could be part of the QB conversation right now? He's been playing fairly well. Yeah, he's definitely starting. I was going to say unless something crazy happens, but I just don't see them steering away, especially with how well this team is playing around him.
I actually had the Lions at 9. I had them ahead of this next team, the Vikings, because the last time they played, they beat the Vikings by double digits. And so I think that the Lions, and we've seen what the Vikings have done against good teams. Here's another kind of teaser preview of our playoff preview for the Legit Football NFL podcast on Friday. Giants playing the Vikings. I'm kind of leaning towards picking the Giants. I need to dive into the game a little more, but I just like that matchup. Whenever the Vikings have played a good team, they have not just lost, they have gotten pasted. But they still won 13 games. They still made the playoffs as the 3 seed. They deserve a spot in the top 10. So Anthony has put the Vikings at 9. Justin Jefferson by himself can win themselves 1 or 2 playoff games. But I'm not that excited about this Vikings team. I don't see them going far. I could even see them losing in the first round to New York.
Yeah, I definitely think that's fair, especially with how poor they've been playing against good teams, good playoff teams. Other than obviously the Lions aren't a playoff team, but still they're definitely were a contender this year to make the playoffs. But the Vikings, I mean, I don't look at you differently for looking down on them. But if the point differential, that whole story could be thrown out if they get a couple wins in the playoffs and show some life there. So this is what it's all about. They got to show up now. My next pick, have the Jacksonville Jaguars coming in. They are playing a very interesting game coming up at home.
I actually had them a couple spots higher.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair too. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence could lead this team down the stretch a little bit if they can beat the Chargers. Are they going to compete against anybody like the Bills, Bengals, or Chiefs? We shall see. But they have an interesting. They definitely coming in hot. They didn't play their best game against the Titans recently. Before that. I mean, ETN had 17 yards rushing against the Titans.
They still found a way to win. Their
defense
found a way to win. That's what I liked about the Jags. Is their offense has been the team that has been the side of the ball that's been leading them. But it was the defense that won this game against the Titans when their offense was, one of the worst performances they've had since maybe the mid season. But the 2 teams I have behind them are 2 teams that both lost with their starters in.
Right.
So number 7, let's go ahead and put the Chargers. That's why I ended up putting the Jaguars 2 spots ahead of these next 2 teams, because I just felt that even though it wasn't a pretty game against the Titans, they still found a way to win. They took the division. What a turnaround from a season ago. From a roster standpoint, the Chargers might be like 3 or 4 as far as most talented rosters. I picked them in the preseason to go to the AFC Championship game. I picked them to win the AFC West. They still made the playoffs, but they just have these games like they did in Week 18 where and Brandon Staley still making questionable decisions where he's got all his starters out there in a game that doesn't matter if you want to start them and then take them. But they were playing into the fourth quarter in a game that they were losing to the Broncos. So a team that we finished at 28th in the power rankings. So I won't put any more time on the Chargers. They're talented enough. Honestly, they're talented enough, Jimmy, to go to the Super Bowl. Whether they do or not, I don't have a lot of faith because they just haven't been able to consistently. And Mike Williams, who a lot of their resurgence was centered around him, now he's questionable.
Yeah, I think I I foresee them doing a little better. I think they will end up beating the Jaguars this upcoming week. I think Joey Bosa
we'll find
coming
out.
back
They
is going
play
to be
each other.
huge.
I'm excited about that matchup, actually.
I think Joey Bosa coming back, and hopefully he gets to play a lot more snaps. I think they're gonna do that. They might as well. I don't take the last game too much. I know all the starters were playing, but I don't know what the players. I wonder what the players were thinking in terms of starting that game. I don't know if they might have wanted to as well if it was all Anthony's decision. But it should be. This is one of those games that could easily be an upset. I don't think it'll be an upset either way, honestly, because I think it's a toss up at this point. For my next pick, I have the team you kind of just mentioned coming off a loss against the Commanders when they had something.
Loss.
Yeah. When a team they had something to play for, they had the possible 1 seed they could have locked up with a few other things to happen. But yeah, I mean they did not play well. They're not playing their best football. Dak Prescott, he's leading the league in an interception percentage. He has an interception in 7 straight games. So not looking
he played
great.
Particularly bad in this one. Against this Commanders team. They lost to a rookie making his first ever start in a game where they had a chance at the number 1 seed in the division. I am, officially label me concerned about the Cowboys. Like I said, we got a playoff preview show on Friday. We'll go into that in more detail. But yeah, I I think I'm going to end up picking the Bucks to upset them on Monday night in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean it's like the last few teams have said they've had the ups and downs throughout the season. It's just which team will step up and show what they're capable of during the playoffs when it matters the most. Because you could look at any game and be like, oh, the Cowboys were playing really well that game, or this past game when they got trounced.
So let's talk about the teams that have not been up and down. Let's talk about the teams that have been dominating all season, the top 5 in the NFL. This is the cream of the crop. Any one of these teams is fully capable of winning the Super Bowl. So don't be upset if your team is at 5. Go ahead and put the Bengals up there. I absolutely believe the Bengals have the capability to win the Super Bowl. It's just all of these teams at the top from 5 on up are so good. They're good and they're consistent. You can say that the Eagles lost 2, but they had a backup quarterback in. They didn't play their best game against the Giants backups, but they still won. Jalen Hurts is in. They get a week off. I think they're going to be at full strength and ready to go. But the Bengals playing as hot as just about anyone. Get a Ravens team that they just beat, facing yet again a backup quarterback. I think this is going to be a cakewalk for them. Might as well be a bye, even though it's a division foe. Bengals could be making a return trip.
Yeah, they easily could. And I mean, all of these 5 teams, I'm excited to see who ends up in the playoffs. I had a tough time picking these top 4 teams because I put the Eagles at 4, so I don't know what that tells you. I had them in the top for so long. I hope.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope Jalen Hurts comes back and plays well, even though he is injured now. I hope the bye week helps him out a little bit. Will it? We'll have to wait and see. But they are coming into the playoffs on the exact opposite of how they started the season. They're kind of falling down a little bit, but that was because Jalen Hurts was injured. But we shall see. We shall see
if
how
Hurts is healthy. I think top to bottom, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. If he's healthy. So we'll see how he is. They get the bye. They really needed that bye amongst a lot of these teams. But top to bottom, from the lines to the secondary to the weapons, everything, and especially the quarterback position, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. We'll have to see if Hurts is at full strength. Number 3, Kansas City Chiefs. Remember, guys, any of these top 5 could win, so I don't want anybody saying, oh, the Chiefs, number 1 seed, why are they at 3? They're the number 1 seed because the Bills and Bengals didn't get to finish their game, all right? That's not a knock on the Chiefs. That's just the reality. Both the Bills and Cincinnati beat the Chiefs this season, but because of the winning percentage rule that they changed with no Bills-Bengals game, the Chiefs get the number 1 seed. Defense is still a question. Their pass rush has actually been really good lately. That's made their defense better, but their secondary still weak. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I could still easily seeing them go to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I had them as this exact same spot as well. They're averaging the most points per game this season. I mean, when
one extra minute, Mahomes, Anthony. 1 extra minute. Let's finish out these top 2 because since he got 32, he gets to make this determination. The final power rankings of the 2022 season, Jimmy. Whoever you pick at 2 means you're also picking 1. Who do you got?
Wow, I didn't realize that. I get a big choice here. I didn't realize that all this time. That makes sense though.
The pressure's on you, man.
Buffalo Bills at number 2.
Yes,
they've won 7 straight coming into this week. I mean, they're probably gonna trounce the Dolphins if they don't. That'd be insane. But they have a pretty good road to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. They're playing the Dolphins, who are banged up in the QB position. They get to go into the next team playing at home. So whoever they play there, if they do end up playing the Bengals, then they have a good chance of we finally get to see how that turns out, and they get to play at home again there.
Let's take the last 15 seconds to give love to the number 1 team, first time in the power rankings, San Francisco 49ers. Their one questionable factor is, can Purdy keep doing what he's doing? If he does, I would love to see a Niners-Eagles NFC Championship game and a Chiefs Bills or Bengals AFC Championship game. I mean, these 5 teams, any of them at any given Sunday could win the Super Bowl, but the Niners are the absolute hottest team in the NFL. 10 straight victories. Even when they're behind, even when they're not playing their best, they still found ways to win with a rookie 7th round, last pick in the draft, quarterback. Love it. They're healthy when they need to be. They deserve to finish the season as the number 1 team. Jimmy, I'm glad that you agreed. That was in my private rankings. I had the Niners number 1 last week as well, but the guest I had on decided not to put the Niners first. So that's how the draft goes. Jimmy, it has been a blast. We will
Yeah.
find some more stuff to do with you during the offseason. I think we're going to have you on Monday's Legit Football NFL podcast recapping the Super Wildcard weekend. I guess there's a Monday night game, so we'll
the
just have to kind
Cowboys.
of preview it. Maybe do a Monday night preview / Sunday and Saturday recap. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Let's do a quick recap run through of 10 through 1. Anthony, stop scrolling. At number 10, how crazy is this? The Detroit Lions finish our power rankings in the top 10. Minnesota Vikings at 9. Jacksonville Jaguars without Urban Meyer at number 8. LA Chargers at 7. Dallas Cowboys at 6. I picked the Cowboys to miss the playoffs in the preseason. I was wrong. Bengals at 5. Eagles at 4. Chiefs at 3. Buffalo Bills at 2. And yes, that's right, the San Francisco 49ers led by a guy named Brock Purdy. If you've been asleep for the last 18 weeks, a dude named Brock Purdy is undefeated as a rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, leading the 49ers into his first ever playoff match and hopefully leading the Niners for their sake to the Super Bowl. Jimmy, any last words as you wrap up our final power ranking show for 2022?
I mean, with all the games that we consider that might be blowouts, I think we have some pretty good games coming up with the Giants Vikings playing each other. We have the Jaguars Chargers. We have the Cowboys and Bucks. We could see an upset there. The Bengals Ravens. You never know with those teams.
Division,
so I'm excited.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what could come out from any of these games. I'm just excited to see these unfold and see one of these teams win it all. So there's a lot of teams that haven't won a Super Bowl ever. So
Benji and Dad Gaming Channel, thanks for being in the chat for the whole show. And he
Appreciate
says,
you.
Thank you guys for the work this season. We appreciate you so much, and everybody who has subscribed, either if it's just on the podcast on audio or if you watch us on live on YouTube. We're not going away. We're going to have other content for you. As I mentioned, we're starting a new Legit Football NFL podcast. We're not going to have the timer, a little bit more long form, a little bit more opinions, but we're going to keep 30 minutes also. We're going to have different content. We'll keep the 30-minute timers that will give you short, sweet NFL content coming at you. Jimmy, thanks as always for joining me.
for sure.
We'll look forward to having you on Monday to talk some NFL playoff recap. Thanks again for listening and watching as always. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. We'll see you next time. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.